I've proven that my age was changed by sex traffickers very clearly now, which means that I've proven that, like, people in Colorado threaten me with guns constantly. Like, this guy handed me a loaded pistol. He's like, you want to see my gun? He handed it to me. He didn't tell me it was loaded. I cocked it and I was like, oh crap, dude, your gun's loaded. And then, like, I tried to clear the gun, and then he shot a cap gun. And, like, I've proven that people were terrorizing me. But I'm still on probation, and, like, how long, and, like, so, like, for a year before I went to jail for like 10 months, I was on, like, a variation of probation. I was, like, incompetent for trial. So, like, I like, had to stay in Colorado. I had to do all this stuff. Like, it was probation. And then, like, I went to jail. I got out. Now I've done almost 2 years of probation, and then they're about to revoke and reinstate, so, like, start me over on 2 more years. Or something like that. And, like, I've proven my age is wrong that clearly, and people keep threatening me here. Like, I'm afraid to leave my house in Colorado because these people are, like, they're killers. They're child killers. Like, they are child molesters. Like, they kidnap children. They are sex traffickers that kill people so much that they don't get caught. And they clearly are out of Colorado that much, because I moved to Colorado for apparently no time at all. I've proved how long I was there, like, freaking, like, probably less than a year, and I got molested like crazy. Before that, I was never molested. Like, I got molested like twice, but, like, once I got to Colorado, it was like people getting in the back seat of the car with me, like that kind of thing. Like, everyone's getting me to drink when I'm like a freaking toddler. And so all I'm saying is there's something wrong here where I can't get off probation and leave this state and actually feel safe when I go outside. And I don't know how these people don't get it. Like, I think they think they're going to use me as a human shield. And, like, what they need to do is use me as a human, like, get me away from them. Like, seriously, like if you want to, like, not look like a freaking psycho pedophile, then actually look at the evidence and see what everyone else sees. It's not very hard to figure out you need to do that. I think it's important to understand that justice is important for the sake of world peace. So I'm talking about the word dikaiosune in Greek, which is, like, where, like, the origin of, like, this deep philosophical understanding of justice originated, which is translated in the Christian Bible as righteousness. But sometimes it's translated as justice. Like, it's a complicated concept, because justice can be, like, determined by who's the strongest person. Like, back, like, 1,000 years ago, justice was determined by the Christian church, the Catholic Church. And so, like, people would get burnt alive if they tried to recite, the Lord's Prayer or any of the Bible in English in England, because you had to say it in Latin, but the Bible was written in Greek, and they didn't even use the name Jesus. Like, they were constantly trying to change the Bible. But what was just was not trying to translate Latin to English, even though no one knew Latin at all. And the reason that was just is because the strongest person in the room decided what's just. And we have a society now where that person has realized they had to relax the way that their justice was forced on society. And they did that in the United States, but then they still can't relax certain things. Like, they can't relax the First Amendment. Like, they can't relax on their desire to break the First Amendment and to say it's illegal to say things, where it's illegal for us to talk about the mafia. Like, where, like, every time we post something, we're probably going to have it taken down, or we're going to get our account locked for like a month. And, like, but then, like, next thing you know, the FBI is showing up, and we don't even, like, know how that's possible in that circumstance, because we know what we said, absolutely nothing at that time, because we were so aware of the law and so aware of our probation, because I was on probation. And that's why, like, I would really be more careful than ever in what I was saying on the internet. But then the FBI still showed up, and they had an open case against me for illegal speech. And that's why I'm in the situation I'm in now. And it feels like people don't understand how important justice is, like, or the view of society that you're being just. Because now I've proven so clearly that I'm a sex trafficking victim. You'll never doubt that guy is tiny when I'm 16 years old. And that guy is so far away from that light switch. Dude, that is a kid. Like, you can tell. You'll never doubt Shauna Ray. I say I know that girl. Of course that kid knows that girl. she's not as tall as him. And so, like, what I'm saying is if she's next to the light switch, she's right here. And if my ex-girlfriend was next to the light switch, she's right here. She's barely over the light switch. And so, like, people clearly were trying to make me look older. So I'm in a situation now where, like, I have proven so much that I'm a sex trafficking victim because that person is not 16 years old. Like, that person is too near the light switch. That person was taking human growth hormones and is still that short at that age. And you can tell that is a tiny, tiny guy. And I'm a huge guy. And so, like, I had proven it before, like, with talking about Srixon golf balls, like, how, like, I only played Srixon golf balls in tournaments. I played Srixon Extra Spin, and, like, that was in the 90s. Well, Srixon didn't exist. Like, and I talked about the skate park and Monument. The skate park and Monument didn't exist in the 90s. And I talked about, like, Tensor trucks, which I had. They didn't exist in the 90s. So, like, all these things that I've done to prove that my age is wrong, like, has come to a point where I have very proven with hard evidence that my age is wrong. And, like, when I prove that, I prove that there are a lot of people that are getting molested constantly that are very young, and that they are getting abused. They're given human growth hormones, like, in order to make them bigger and make them have boobs and to stimulate puberty so that they will be confused about their age. And they're getting physically harmed by the drugs they are given, and they're getting their lives, like, ripped apart. And these people are getting controlled by the stronger. Like, they have geniuses. These people are evil. They're doing evil stuff, and they have geniuses that are in censorship bubbles where they are blocking their internet, so that person is in the craziest bubble that's ever existed, where he has to find a Polaroid that's, or like a disposable camera picture that, like, you can't even tell it's him. He can basically only prove it because of his shirt. And so, like, all I'm saying is that, like, the evilest people you can imagine are that in charge. Like, they are abusive people. And, like, when those people are controlling justice that much, like the definition of justice, which is there is no justice, and we're not even close to justice, and people start seeing how far we are away from justice, then, like, that's when, like, I'm a danger to the community. It's not because of me saying things. It's because of people seeing reality. And, like, I don't think people get that, like, keeping me as a slave that's not allowed to have money, and then, like, constantly going, like, I can't see evidence, is dangerous for them. And it's not because of me. It's not because I'm trying to do something. And, like, I know my probation officer said, like, she told me, like, she's like, the gun's not the problem. Like, no one cares about the gun. Like, the threat to the community isn't about the gun. And, like, I think the threat to the community is the behavior that shows people how unjust our community is. And it scares people. Because, like, there's nothing scarier than, like, a dictatorship of child molesters that, like, are that physically abusive, that can do anything they want. The last thing I just want to point out is that justice is relevant. So, like, what's just in one place is what's unjust in another place. And, like, I think that, like, I try to view justice as very fluid because, like, I right now I'm looking at some of these people. Like, I have this big long list of people that I'll let play music in Vegas, and some of them I'll whore out, and I might even change my mind on that, and some of them, like, are gonna want to be whored out because it's just easier, and it sounds like a crazy thing to say. Like, if you listen to me, you're like, this is hilarious, and I'm fully aware that it's hilarious, and that's why I like saying it, because I think it's funny. But, like, the reality is that some people, like Mark Zuckerberg being whored out, is something that he sees and goes, like, I could not be dead, like, in this situation. Like, and I'm sure that my judge just went, no, he used that word. And what I'm trying to tell you is that, like, if you were theoretically the one that was, everyone knows it's you. Like, you're the person that has controlled the internet that much that makes sure that girl's in a censorship bubble. Like, you're the reason that like, these little people can be kept as slaves. You're the reason that these children are getting abused so bad. Like, you are this cornerstone of keeping the children abused. Then people are going to be dangerous towards that person. And you'll never convince me that he's not. And what I've been saying is, like, that guy does not have to be in danger. Like, I can use him on my side. He can be protected, and he could, like, have a very nice punishment compared to, like, a very brutal punishment. And, like, it's a joke, but if you're the king, you can do that. And the reality is the king can do whatever they want. And that's what a kingship is. And like they always say I'm the king above all kings, like in like when they talk about my clones. And the reality is that if I'm the king above all kings, like I can say to you like what you've done, it means that is not going to matter. Like, except that you'll be a slave, and like no one's really kept as a slave, but it's easy to keep you as a slave. And so like the reality is like that's a way of like trying to resolve my problem right now, which is like I've got to deal with the censorship of the internet. Like I have to deal with like people not talking, like with people being afraid to tell the truth. Like I've got to figure out how to like get that girl to America. Like I've got to figure out how to stop like what it feels like is the feds. Who the feds are, like people need to be able to explain like I was brainwashed, like my head is brainwashed, like they have controlled my thoughts, like they need to like be able to use that as an excuse, and that excuse allows me to give leniency. And so like I understand like how much a person can control your head because I'm aware of the technology. And I feel like I'm afraid to post this because like, and that's what the mafia wants, is me to be afraid to say anything at all. You use the word dead. That's what the FBI would say to me. Don't use the word death. Last thing I want to say about justice is that like justice bothers people that much. And that's why like you guys have to be afraid of like my followers. And also because they see it. Like they're living in like equilibrium. They're living in Brave New World. They're living in a tech dictatorship, censorship bubble where no one can communicate with each other, and they have to figure out how to go out and physically talk to one another because they're in so much danger from the people who control their technology and from the government, because they are worried about biological weapons. They're worried about not being able to trust people. And like when I talk about like keeping people as whores, what I'm saying is like you don't have to worry about that guy on the internet. You don't have to worry about that person using the technology and doing terrible things. You don't have to worry about Sam Altman and his brainwashing AI that somehow has a neural interface in your head transmitting thoughts constantly, which is audio data, and and it's listening to your thoughts. Like you don't have to worry about him doing that because he would be kept as a sex slave and a slave in general. And so like what I'm telling you is like I'm trying to figure out like a way of doing justice which benefits the masses. Like John Stuart Mill, have you ever heard of him? Utilitarianism, like the idea that like what is good is like what's good for the most people, and is a popular philosophical idea. And so like what's good for the most people for me would be keeping Jeff Bezos as a sex slave and saying, yeah, like a lot of people did something bad, but I'll keep you as a sex slave. Like you can make sure that Amazon doesn't screw up. And the reality is maybe that's unjust. Like maybe like he didn't get what he deserves. He did something bad. Like he is that in on the conspiracy to do biological weapons, theoretically. Like say that's the situation. Like even though like his role in the censorship is not Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg's got a big like bullseye on his forehead because like in this situation like everyone's looking at Mark Zuckerberg. And I think Mark Zuckerberg knows that. It's like you got marked. And like that's why when like I'm saying like that guy can be someone you don't have to worry about, we can figure out who we have to worry about next, and like we can like stop the censorship bubble on Facebook and stop that algorithm. Like I'm saying like let's do justice for the most people, which is like, I mean it's just easier because like of certain tech things related to like the way that Facebook's like hardware works. I have a feeling like I don't know like how their cookies work and crap like that.